anxietycenter.com.
Hey, Jim, I just got a quick one.
Yes.
I've been noticing, especially lately, obviously there's a lot of people struggling with anxiety, and I've had a close friend and my wife's cousin as well come forward with their huge anxiety troubles and kind of talking to me about it. And I'm just wondering, if you were in, somebody who's still currently struggling a little bit, like myself, if you were in our shoes, how would you handle other people coming, to you? I don't. Now I'm very comfortable in my knowledge and understanding of anxiety, just because I've been as I said, like, I guess you call it suffering on and off for the past 10 years, and I've been on your website and read every chapter multiple times, and in therapy as well. So I'm very confident in my understanding, and I don't try to give them particular advice, but all I do at this point is I point them to I give them your website, and I point them to your website, and stress the importance of how anxiety is caused actually by behaviors and our way of thinking, rather than external forces or circumstances. So I really stress the importance of behavior and thinking. Would you handle it any different than how I am? Because that's pretty much what I do when I hear of other people struggling.
No, I think that's great. Yeah, there's two things that are really good about it. First off, is that you're providing some information to them that they may not know, and you're giving them direction to get some information that will be helpful. So that's good. But also talking about it with others helps to reinforce our own skills. I can't recall who said this as a quote, but if you want to really learn a subject, teach it. And so both of those things are good. The only caution I would give you is make sure that you're not extending yourself so much by giving to others that you actually don't give your body time to rest, because it's a common thing. Anxious person, you love other people, you're empathetic, you want to help, but sometimes you give beyond your body's ability to recover. So you just want to, measure the amount of effort you put into helping others, that it's not going to jeopardize your own recovery.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I'll just give an example. One of our members 2 or 3 years ago had come a long way in his recovery, and was really feeling confident. A lot of his symptoms have left, was working on the final stages of level 2, and then some of his loved ones came to him, and he was teaching them and helping them, and the next thing you know, he's doing email exchanges, staying up late, talking long hours on the phone, and week after week after, even though he was compassionate and helpful, it still drained his body, which what happened? Stressed the body, symptoms came back. So you just want to make sure that you're not extending yourself beyond your body's ability to cope.
Okay. I have thank you for that. I have an additional question, just because you're talking about, extending yourself and, spending a lot of energy. I have a question for you, especially personally, because how many years did you spend fully committed with once you gathered all the proper knowledge to extinguish hyperstimulation and kind of put the anxiety disorder to bed for good? Was it 2 years, if I'm not mistaken?
It was longer. 2 years, I ought to say I was well on my way, but it still took probably another 2 or 3 just to get everything settled and to get my behaviors in check, to make sure that I was managing my stress well. Even, some time out, I would have the odd little tremor of a panic attack that would say, oh, wow, that was weird. That's been such a long time already. So while most of my condition was gone at 2 years, there was still some touch-ups and cleanup to do for the probably following 2. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And, especially those first 2 years where you did the major or most of your recovery. Yeah. What was your schedule like? What was your I guess, did you have a system or checks and balances in place? Just because I'm asking this question because as I said, I've gone on on an entrepreneurial endeavor, and only the past 2-3 months I've actually realized, especially listening to your Skype conversations as well in the history there, that positive stress can also be detrimental to the body, which I didn't know. I was extending myself in what I considered a positive way with all kinds of meetings and yeah, just spending a lot of energy, and my symptoms would get stronger and stronger, and I'd get all confused because I was like, what's the matter? I'm excited. I'm doing good here. Like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But it wouldn't help with my recovery process. And only recently have I realized that positive stress can be detrimental and it's not helping the recovery process. And now I'm kind of struggling to find the proper schedule, and how much time should I invest in certain areas. And I just don't want to, ideally, because I really this is the most committed and most disciplined I've ever been at the present moment in trying to recover from trying to recover from anxiety. I don't know how much time I should spend resting. I don't know what my schedule should be like sometimes. Like when work's done, I don't know what to do. Like sometimes I'm wondering, like, should I go, invest time in my business, or should I, take a nap or watch a funny show?
Gotcha, sure. So, yeah. Well, I recovered. I guess the first year of recovery was 1986 to 87. And I was feeling much better. The problem is that I made a major life change. Like it was major, as major as you can make. And I went moving from a family business to completely changeover with no financial guarantee at all. And so there was a lot of stress just in that change, but I managed it well by keeping up with my deep relaxation, by containing my anxiousness. While I was excited about the change, there was still some stress involved, of course, but I managed that transition just fine. And that could have been one of the reasons it took another 2 years for things to settle, because I made a major life change. But if you're doing something that you love and your focus is not on anxiety, that's a benefit right there. But you do want to make sure that you're not, running your body too hard so that it doesn't get a chance to recover from the stress. Because for anxiety disorder sufferers, our biggest stress is our worry. Number one, biggest thing. That'll get our body fired up faster than anything. So if we're containing that and balancing the, the enjoyment stress with deep relaxation and taking frequent breaks, you should be fine as you transition through this. But you have to be the one that sets, what you're going to do. For example, if you put in, an 8-hour day and it was a really fun and really upbeat day, well, that means your body's pumping hormones. So that means you also have to then balance that out with downtime in the evening. I mean, when I look at what I did, the first years of the transition, I really kept my days to 8 hours. But after I made the transition, I worked 16 hours a day. In fact, there were some weeks I was putting in 80 hours a week. Just trying to get the new business going and whatever. And that never affected me at all because I was meditating, I was containing my anxiousness, and I was also exercising daily as well. I'd go for an 1.5 to 2 hour bike ride each day just to balance the stress from those long work hours. So you can do it, but you just have to monitor how your body's going to manage it, because each body's going to be different, right?
Yeah, so you're saying you were able to put on 80-hour work week sometimes,
yep.
During your recovery years, because you were able to counterbalance it, right?
Yeah, because I consider myself recovered in probably mid-86. And then, there was another year where everything settled. But from 1987, probably the first part of 87, I kept my hours restricted. But from about 1988, right through until maybe the last 3 or 4 years, I would put in 80 hours almost every week.
Wow.
Yeah. And just because I'd make sure that if I noticed my stress is creeping up, I would maybe take a weekend off and just rest, or I would increase my meditations. So I was able to balance it that way for all those years, putting in extremely long hours. So you can do it. It's the attitude that makes all the difference.
Do you still meditate, Jim?
I do, not as regularly as I used to, only because again, busyness. Our organization has grown so fast. There's just so much to do each day, and I've sort of put that on hold, which I have to get back to. But that's one thing that kept me very well for all those years, is those regular meditations. I do different things now. I don't work as long as I used to. I cut back that about 3 or 4 years ago, cut back the hours. So it's not that I need to balance that high level of stress as much, but preference, if I wasn't as busy, I would probably still meditate each day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have one struggle that the last year I really cut back on exercise. I would usually, before this, I would walk 3 to 4 miles, maybe 4 to 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut that back. Like, I cut everything back just to get these symptoms to go away, just anything that would stress me.
Mm.
So I'm trying to get back into that now. And it's bringing back like old feelings, because my initial old feelings when all this happened or started up back, again, pretty bad, was like wobbly legs, stiff legs. And so when I start to walk and I feel discomfort, being sore from exercising or whatever currently,
Mm-hmm.
it brings back those thoughts.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm kind of struggling getting back into that and thinking through that, like, and then I had my chiropractor tell me that I might possibly have osteoarthritis, and I'm only 45.
Okay.
So I kind of have that in my head, and I'm like, well, do I really have something wrong? So it's kind of, I'm trying to get past that.
Yeah. And it's very common to have negative memories associated with some of the old struggles. And that's just, how it is. As we move through anxiety disorder, we have to deal with some elements of post-traumatic stress. And those are the associations we made when we weren't feeling good and the thoughts we had about them. But one of the, a good way to get through that is just to recognize, okay, that was then. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was, I know what's going on now, so I don't have, when my brain goes back there, no, it's just because I didn't understand. I'm way more equipped now. And again, as you're doing is you're replacing the message, you're reframing and reconditioning those thoughts, and you'll probably find yourself back to enjoying those things. I really do recommend, exercise, regular exercise as a person's recovering, because it does wonders for so many reasons. So it's better than not exercising. If a person just sitting around, it's probably not very good. If you're exercising, even to a light degree, that's better than not. So I encourage you to get back there, especially walking. If you love walking, oh man, do it. Yeah.
And I probably made that mistake of not, being consistent over the last year and walking, even if it's just 30 minutes or whatever. But because I also gained weight in the last year because of it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
When it comes to osteoporosis, you might want to, or did he say osteoarthritis? Is that what he said? Sorry.
Osteoarthritis.
Arthritis. Yeah. The problem with being inactive is that we lose bone density.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to keep active as long as you can, so you keep that bone density up. And then, as you know, with osteoarthritis, a lot of it's caused by inflammation, which is a byproduct of stress. And so, no, is the chiropractor the best one to diagnose this? I don't know. But in any case, reducing stress, changing diet to eliminate, inflammatory foods can also help those areas. But certainly exercise is one of the best things you can do if you can get back at it. And when those thoughts pop up, just say, no, that was then. I know what's going on here. That's old news. Yeah. And just keep moving forward and enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I exercised all through that time. Like, I was a major bike rider, and I walked to counteract that stress, and it never really affected me. Yeah. I mean, one of the challenges I have now is I do have a bad knee, and it's because in my DNA, my body deteriorates cartilage faster than most. And so I don't have much cartilage in my right knee, so I can't walk very far. And I love walking, but I can't do it so much. So.
Yeah, it's great mentally. I feel so much better mentally when I do get out and walk.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, you bet. Yeah, me too. Yep. Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
so,
Jim. Got time? Oh,
yes.
Sorry.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I think you mentioned at the beginning of the call that old threats can come back.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering, do you know why old threats that seem to be forgotten can come back and still seem very strong?
Yes.
And I'll describe just a quick threat. Like, I used to get a big threat that my fiance or girlfriend at the time, that I also didn't love her, or she's not the one for me, and there's a lot more implications to that there, but it was just a pure fictitious type of threat. Yep. And I've married this girl since, and I've had many moments of like, and we have a great relationship. I have nothing but good things to say about how our relationship is and where it's going. But sometimes the threat does come back again. It's just like I'll be sitting there with her and the threat will come back and it's so strong. And then it's like, yeah, it's like, I thought I'm over this.
Yeah, well, why those threats come back is when you look at how the brain stores information, contrary to popular belief up until just recently, they thought that each region of the brain was responsible for one aspect. Well, they've proven that that's false. All parts of the brain are involved in a lot of different aspects, and so memories are stored in a bunch of different places depending on the length of the memory, the emotions stored with it, and so on and so forth. When the body's stress level is normal, again, coming back to what I mentioned in the early part, well, the brain isn't looking for threats because stress levels are normal, there's no urgency, so it kind of, lets those old memories lie or disappear. But when our stress levels go up, a couple of things change. One is, then again, the brain goes into kind of hypervigilance mode, looking for danger, and it'll start, sourcing back through some of the old stuff to see if they're still dangerous. And the other thing that recent research has found, which is pretty incredible actually, is that a lot of the memories we forget are actually stored in a different brainwave frequency. So it's like we can't access it consciously because our brainwaves don't go to that frequency. But what happens when stress elevates, well, it can change how the brain accesses those frequencies, and next thing you know, it's drawing back an old fear we thought we got rid of. And so just based on the level of stress being up, we can have those old fears come back. And we posted some research to that effect in one of the articles we have at the website. It's recently been proven that that's true. And well, as an anxiety disorder sufferer, we know it because we experience it, but they haven't been able to verify it scientifically, which they recently have. So we know that that happens. But when that happens, we just have to, again, remind ourselves, okay, my stress might be up. For whatever reason, the brain thinks it's urgent that I remember this. No, never mind. It's old news. I don't have to. We just put it away again. And one of the, things that we talk about in terms of extinguishing fear is we want to be repetitive in that. We want to keep reminding the brain, no, don't have to worry about this, because what we're really doing is we're reconsolidating a memory. And I'll just explain this, which we are going to explain in the article that's coming up. But when we experience something, the brain stores it along with all the details in its memory. And there's a short and long-term memory. So short-term memories, what happens when we have them and we live life and we go to sleep and so on and so forth, the brain then consolidates those memories into long-term memories. So it shifts those short-term experiences into the long-term areas of the brain. But whenever we remember them, when we remember them, we actually reconsolidate the memory. It's like we take it again and we restore it. So, and this is why, for example, memory reconsolidation is a real problem for eyewitnesses in testimony, because a lot of times they can actually change what they initially saw just by remembering it incorrectly. They call that memory reconsolidation. When you pull a memory up, change it slightly, and then store it again. So the next time the brain goes for that memory, it pulls up the stored version, not the original one. So this is what we do with fear. That's why we can forget fears, is because we can call up these threats, or when they're presented to us, we can actually reframe them by thinking differently about them and then restore them. And as we keep restoring them, they lose their danger signal. And so again, whenever these old fears pop up, it's just because stress is probably elevated to some degree, or something may have happened. You might be thinking of something and it's just triggered that old threat, whatever it is. If it pops up, just say, no, that's an old threat. I've dealt with it. Never mind. We restore it, reconsolidate it, and stick it back. And if we do that over and over and over again, eventually the brain says, I don't have to worry about this. It's not a threat anymore. So that's kind of what happens when these old threats pop up. It could be triggered by an associated memory or elevated stress. But if we just, reconsolidate them, reframe them, stick them back, they eventually disappear over the course of time.
Okay, right on.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jim.
No problem. Kind of a long-winded way of getting to your point. The other thing too is, as we're working through relationships, some people have the idea that once we've said I love you and I really feel committed, that 100% love stays the entire way throughout the relationship. That's not how it works, though. Because when you think of love, we love a person based on what we think about the person. If that person is treating us nice and they're affectionate, well, we think they're wonderful to love. But if we have issues and we have fights or disagreements, well, then what we say to ourselves about that person can change, right? Well, that person's being a real, egghead right now, or being really stubborn. So that message we say to ourselves about that person changes the degree of love we feel emotionally. So some of these old things can pop up if we're having, maybe we've been through a really stressful week for some reason and we're sitting down relaxing and we look at the person that we know we do love 100%, but maybe it just hasn't been that nice of a relationship the last couple of weeks. We could say to ourselves, well, maybe I really didn't love that person. So that's a conclusion we made that's not maybe accurate. Could say, for example, with relationship therapy, a person looks at what messages am I saying about, my spouse, and is that message actually accurate, or am I just, did we just have a bad week? So some of that can be playing as well. But so you have the elevated stress, you can have, reframing it, or you can have, sometimes your love for that person challenged because of events that have happened recently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Just a quick add-on there. Can threats actually elevate the stress, even though you're doing a good job at containing that threat, and even if you've practiced containing it and you're doing a good job containing it, can it still cause, I guess, a somewhat elevation in stress?
It can, because old fears are going to cause the first fear to fire, sometimes way faster than we can contain it. Especially flashback fears. They can trigger, and the body's going to present a stress response. It just does. And the faster we get on containing the second one, the better off the body is. Now, so that stress is going to have a minor impact on the body overall in terms of its level of stress. But if we can continue to contain and do our deep relaxation, we can offset those little bursts just by our efforts, right? It's when we start to run with them, when we don't contain them and we're, 8 or 10 fears down the fear trail, that's when they have more of an impact on them. But if we're cutting them off pretty fast, they have very minimal effect overall.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you still hear me?
Can barely hear you.
Better?
It's a little better there, yeah?
Okay. Just a quick question. So I started meditation like a week ago, but I'm having a really hard time not falling asleep. Is that like a normal thing that you experience, or am I maybe doing something wrong?
Well, it's actually quite normal. I mean, when we get the body to a place of being able to relax in a deep, relaxed state, the body's going to sleep. When you think of how the sleep mechanism works, the arousal system keeps us from sleeping. And when we're trying to drop our arousal system deliberately, well, guess what? Well, the sleep one wants to just kick in automatically. And so while sleep isn't bad for deep relaxation, what happens when we come out of that sleep, the body can often gear itself up, so we get an extra boost of cortisol as we're coming out of sleep. So it's preferred to remain, conscious and deliberate in your deep relaxation, so you can really enjoy the deep benefits of relaxation, and so that you can avoid that sort of stress hormone burst as you're coming out. But if your body is so relaxed and it doesn't have a stress hormone burst when it's coming out, there's nothing wrong with sleeping. It's just you get more rest value by remaining conscious than you do by sleeping. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that I just maybe need to like down, and I think once I wake up, I am like more stressed because I didn't really like, I feel like I didn't pay attention. So, and I like there is like definitely there is no like boost or anything like that. Just like more stress. So I think that maybe I'm gonna like switch things a little bit and see how it goes.
Yeah, especially if you're just starting this and you're starting to get some rest benefit, it's probably better to stay conscious than to allow yourself to sleep. But as your body settles, there's nothing wrong with sleeping, especially if your body's not boosting you as you're coming out the other side. Rest is rest, and both are good, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Alrighty. Well, I want to thank you all again for your questions, comments, and interactions. Greatly appreciated, especially so that we can post this for others to listen to. As you know, there's a lot of questions with anxiety, and so these conversations really help. So again, I thank you so much and appreciate your participation. And I don't know when our next meeting is going to be, just because we're coming close to Christmas now, and that's usually a busy time for everybody. But just watch the members area for the next posting. And I think our next discussion too is going to have Stacey Ellerson joining us. And so you might want to join then too. He's one of our senior therapists, a great guy too. So you might want to watch for that. So just watch the members area, and we'll go from there. So I wish everyone, again, thanks so much, and God bless everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.